Welcome to the Open Book, where we just discuss all touching issues, man. The Open Book, we're opening up the book today, more specifically so on an issue that has been kind of plaguing us, and that is the issue of discipline within schools and everything else. I mean, very recently we've just heard and read about the story of a teacher who got stabbed by a pupil in school. But even before that, we've been seeing all over social media and everything else, kids being abusive to teachers, where learners are really just being disrespectful towards teachers, disrespectful towards the schooling system and everything else, where learners are disregarding the authority that is in the schools, and that is that of the educators, and also, other horrific stories of learners stabbing each other in schools, punching each other, fighting, throwing things around and everything else. Basically, our schools have become a war zone, and that is the question that we're asking right here on the Open Book. Have our schools become a war zone? Now, you know how we do it, man, right here on the Open Book. We constantly just do have guests and everything else to help us unravel this whole thing. And today we just decided, let's do it round table style, let's have a discussion. We've got teachers with us right here. All four of them, believe it or not, they are teachers. And I think if we go back to our previous program, I did say that I think, lately I'm getting caught up in these conversations about teaching and education and everything else. I don't know, maybe it's a sign. I don't know. But as you do know, my name is Pops, and as we say, this is the Open Book right here on K Radio. I'll start over here on my right, man. We have Mr. Simons. Leandro Simons, teacher. When it comes to maths and science and everything else, he's kind of like the guru right there. He's graduated and has since gone on, to kind of upskill and upgrade himself and everything else and all of that. You see him right now, he just wanted to come and show off. You heard there's going to be cameras, he's like, aye! and right here next to me, Carmen Joel, very interesting story. Started studying for teaching, went into the corporate world, then she went back into teaching, So also, I think, it speaks of a story that a lot of educators kind of go through, where they start within the classroom, leave it for various other reasons, and for somebody like her, who it is a calling, she ends up going back in there. Janine, yes. Teacher Janine, as I always just do call her, and there's a reason why. I think after all these years, you haven't asked me why I never use your surname. It's because I can't pronounce it. I just confessed that on camera right now. Listen to it. Here it is. I'm gonna be taught. Yeah.
Funvilling.
The tongue twister for you.
Funvilling.
Teacher Janine. Another one who I think after graduating, she's been in the system ever since then, but moved around a couple of schools. Various reasons once again with that one, and then we have. Mr. Williams, he wears another hat as well, that of a pastor, and somebody who, as I can tell, I think all four of our guests here today, you gotta know that they're very passionate about teaching. They're very considerate and concerned about the future of our country and the well-being of our kids in schools. But I mean, pastor teacher Mr. Williams. He's another one. I think from day one he's been involved in school, even before he had completed his qualification. He was still involved in the whole school and everything else. And I think teaching has always just been a part of him. Whether he has his pastor hat on or not, teaching has always just been there on it. So as we said, I mean, the leading question today, right here on the Open Book, is: have our schools turned into a war zone, guys? I mean, as teachers right now. The recent story of this teacher being stabbed in a school, that came across, or rather we came across that story, and immediately, I remember even just telling the guys, I was like, I have teachers and family members who, or rather friends and family members who are teachers. My question comes down to this: when you read of such stories, when you hear of such stories, do you still want to continue?
It's scary at first.
Yeah.
When I heard, and I referred to the gentleman that was stabbed as my colleague. It's my colleague. All teachers are my colleagues.
Sure.
It was scary. I went back to school the next day, saying to my learners, one of my colleagues passed away. Who, ma'am? I said, no, another teacher at a different school. and I expressed my feelings of sadness and my fear, that I was scared that it could be just anybody.
Sure.
But I think I spoke to my learners, and I quickly sort of got over it. I'm not really scared about teaching. I'm still very enthusiastic about it. I don't know, I'm not scared of that.
Mr. Simons, I mean, earlier on, during our briefing and everything else, you mentioned and you touched on, it depends sometimes on the areas that you guys are working in. I know when you were still doing your practicals and everything else, you focused more, within the south of Johannesburg. I mean, schools in Bella Vista, in Turffontein, and all those kind of things. And some of the stories you'd come back with, I'd be like, chance how we show me when I go into this into this thing.
Look, I'm fortunate to say that I've taught in very extremely disadvantaged areas where there's some form of advantage, but there's still some form of disadvantages. And I've taught at some schools where the learners are well off.
Sure.
Now, the whole question of whether school has become a war zone and so on, as a teacher myself, I don't feel it has. However, the areas around the school, and where you are staying and how you are being socialized, some of them are not safe to go home. So learners slowly but surely are starting to carry weapons to school. Whenever we search them, whether we go to the well-off schools and not so well-off schools, without fail we get learners that have weapons. They'll be like, but sir, I need it for safety. This afternoon, last time they robbed me of my cell phone. This and that happens.
Yeah.
So although the weapons are there, not all learners are coming with the intention to say they're coming to do harm or they're coming to fight with the teacher.
Sure.
However, it leaves the door open for the others that come with that intention to say, I will hurt this one. Boiling down to, are we handling bullying or not at school?
But okay, and this is the question, as a matter of fact, I think to all four of you guys. I mean, Janine, you grew up in Eldos. Mr. Williams, you grew up in Bosman, Westbury area. You come from Cape Town, my guy. You know what I mean? Even though not Cape Flatters per se, but the area that you grew up in. I mean, between Cape Town and the Eastern Cape, not so very safe areas. Do you understand what I'm saying? But did you guys ever carry weapons to school? Is my question.
No, I think this is what's happening in our schools is just sort of mirrors what's happening in society.
Sure.
That the children feel the need to protect themselves, so they need these weapons. And you know what? It takes us, as I say in my classroom, if you're not cutting paper, why do you have the scissors in your hand? Because then that scissors is not a tool anymore, it now becomes a weapon.
Sure.
Anything can be a weapon. So these children feel the need to protect themselves as well as to defend themselves. And they'll go to any extreme to do either one, whether to protect themselves or to defend themselves. So I think society, and I think what's happening at home, unemployment, all of those social ills affect our learners. And this is why they have this need or disregard for authority or the ill discipline that there is, because there's no limits. They can just do and please, there's really nothing stopping them.
Sure.
But that's not always the case.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened to our colleague, where he was stabbed, was because it was out of malice. It wasn't out of protection for himself. It was out of sheer disregard for authority. He was like, I'll do it again to the next teacher who wants to tell me what to do. And this now becomes a situation of moral decay. That is where we are finding ourselves in, because discipline has been taken out of the home, it's been taken out of the school, and we have a situation where children have more rights than adults who need to protect them, who need to teach them, who need to make sure that they get to the place that they need to be and guide them. Children are now strict and adults have to be obedient. This is where we are now finding ourselves in. And you know what? This makes our job that bit unpleasant.
Sure.
Because you're standing in the classroom and even your little ones have the attitude of, you can't touch me.
just a study that was done, you know, the National Schools Violence, 52% of educators were exposed to verbal violence perpetrated by learners. All right. The study also went on to show that 12.4% of teachers were exposed to physical violence, right? 3% were exposed to sexual violence perpetrated by learners. And according to the study, which was actually conducted by the Center for Justice and Crime Prevention, this year, abuse of teachers by pupils has escalated. The Department of Education has put a process in place to deal with pupils that attack teachers. I mean, with Limpopo alone, handling what? 942 cases this year. One province, 942 cases in the past year. And according to the study, Gauteng has gone on to expel 151 learners, 35 for assaulting a teacher and other staff. A teachers union, SATU, has actually gone on to condemn violence at schools as a video surface showing pupils attacking a teacher. Right. So this is what is there. And I have a feeling that, I mean, these figures could be slightly more. Because there are those cases that are
Unreported.
that go unreported. Right? You have pupils that go on and slap, stab, threaten and throw chairs at teachers. Right? So you find teachers now, I need to go to self-defense class, to go into a classroom, to go into my classroom,
we need
to
be
go into a profession
armor.
that I've gone on to go and choose. You know, I mean, social media, there's a whole lot of memes and everything else, and our teachers have to go in there
behind cages,
you know,
kids behind
cages and body armor and all these kind of things, carrying guns and everything else. The other thing, I was speaking to one of the teachers, and they say that now when you come across kids fighting each other in school, you think twice to go and stop them.
Yes.
Okay. At my high school, there was a last year actually, there was a you know, sports day, whatever it is that happened. One of the kids rocked up there drunk, started becoming rowdy. The teacher reprimands him. What does he do? He becomes all rowdy. And phones and tablets and everything else on these devices, they get whooped out. So the teacher goes there to reprimand this child. It's only recorded from the point where the teacher is reprimanding the child. Right?
Yes.
So when it goes out now, it's, but look at how teachers are treating our kids.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Right? Until some of the kids said, no, as a matter of fact, we did not catch the footage before that, and this is what happened. So that teacher was well on his way to losing his job.
Yes.
Until these kids spoke up.
Yeah.
So I think also, you know, we gotta look at it that way and say, here's these stats. Where have we lost it? Where do we lose it?
Pops, I just want to make a statement. It's going to be a bit of a harsh statement.
Sure.
The statement that I want to make is that our country is in a state of lawlessness.
Yes.
Not just our schools, our country as a whole. If you look at the corruption that's going on, if you look at from the top down corruption that is right across, if you look at all the inputs that learners are faced with every day, they look onto the news and they see that leaders get away with a lot of things.
Oh, yes.
If they see that there's no accountability from the top right down, that you know, we make a statement, and it was actually, it's not funny, but it comes across as funny that when you ask a learner now, if a cop stops you, what you're going to do, and he says that I'm going to take out the 20 rand. Those are the mindsets already in the learner, that if there's no accountability in schools, in a country, how are we going to expect those that are viewing this? Because what we were taught at college is that there are that subtle learning that takes place.
Yes.
And if learners start thinking that I can buy anything, if I can buy your silence, and this is what is happening in communities around us, these are the things that face us every day. If you look at the music, you look at the movies that learners are exposed to. I mean, before, things that would have been rated 18 is now 13. So when you find these things and you see that there's a whole, like Carmen has said, the moral decay that has taken place in society, in South Africa as a whole, that automatically affects and influences the actions of our kids. I mean, if you look at the rap music that they listen to, just looking at from that perspective, it speaks about violence. If you look at their heroes, the heroes are ones that kill each other. We know what happened with Tupac and Biggie and all those things, and everything that has happened since then, it just speaks about. But to even go further, I mean, if you look at what Kosa said, saying beat the teacher. And I mean, SATU has spoken out now 2 days ago against what they said and said they must retract. I would go to as far as the point as saying that the guy that said it on national TV,
Should be
this
held
teacher that was
accountable.
murdered, the case should be taken to him as well. Because
Yes.
these are because the moment someone comes and says something about racial issues
Oh, yes.
or someone instigates fighting,
Sure.
then it
Mm.
becomes an issue.
Yes.
But when someone says he teaches, nothing gets done.
Nothing.
Yes.
I want to bring this in, and I'm, you know, just on your point of what our kids are watching, what they're listening to, who they idolize, and everything else. And I always use the example of, you know, my parents and how I was raised and everything else. I would not dare play rap music in my parents' house because it was made clear that you're not going to play this nonsense in our house.
Mm.
That's the statement that was said. So I listened to rap music wherever it is. Now, whatever music that I was listening to, if it perpetuated violence, if it perpetuated disrespect, you know, sexism and whatever it is, I'd never bring it home. Similarly, I would never take it to school because there was always that relationship between my parents
Mm.
and my teachers,
Yes.
right? Not only just the headmaster, and that relationship wasn't just on parents meeting or whatever it is, but constantly. My parents would know what's happening, why this child has come home 2 days in a row, no homework.
Mm.
What's the whole? So I'm trying to, you know, just go back there that there was that whole relationship. Now I want to talk about the relationship right now. Let's come right now in terms of the schools where you guys are at and everything else, in terms of the system and everything else. How involved are the parents in the educating of their kids? How involved are parents in the schools, in the running of the schools and everything else? Without you having to call parents meeting and everything else, how involved are the parents?
Look, personally, I can say the parents that are very involved, there's not a lot of them. Those that come in, their children tend to excel, tend to be respectful,
Yes.
tend to come to class wanting to listen, wanting to learn.
Sure.
Mm.
And what I find is their parents are very involved. If the child just does a drop 5 or 10% in a test, the parent is there. What's going on? Why is my child dropped, etc. So
Yeah.
they keep their children on the toes, and there's that respect. Where the
Mm.
child give me the same respect as the parent because the parent is constantly talking to me. But that's, if I statistically would say, 5% of the school's
Very
parents.
few.
Mm.
Yeah, I think at the school I'm at, which would be considered a previously Model C school, you
Yeah.
know, a more affluent school, but not one of the most affluent schools. I find that the parents try to be involved with their children, but the parents are just too busy. But they're not busy with nonsense. They're busy, you know, at work.
Well, providing for the
commuting,
kids.
yes,
Yeah.
paying for the school fees
Sure.
and the transport, commuting to work 2 hours in the morning, commuting back from work. So
Yeah.
they're busy with that, you know. I can't really say they've got a don't care attitude. It's that they don't have enough time, you know, to be there.
Yeah. So I think then, Mr. Williams, I mean, that whole thing where you were saying in the beginning with your statement that, I mean, lawlessness and everything else in our societies and all of that, our parents, and I'm not trying to create an excuse right here, but our parents are seen to be forced to be absent.
Mm.
So I then say that I've sent you to school, let them discipline you and teach you. Because of the fact that I leave the house at 6 o'clock to be at work at 8.
Mm.
I leave the office at 4 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, and I only get home at 7 o'clock.
Mm.
So I am, Monday to Friday, there's a 10 hours, 10, 12 hours that I am not involved in my kids' life. And discipline and all those kind of things, right? So it then says that I have put my trust in you as an educator that you are going to raise my child properly.
Yes.
Now, that trust, I think that's where the problem, it leads now to our next question, that very often you find, I think it's not even a secret or anything. You got teachers in the system that don't want to be there. You got
Yeah.
teachers in the system that are there because it was easier for me to get in there. You know what I mean? I mean, we know the unemployment situation in this country. So you got teachers in the system right now that have gone in there just so that I'm busy. You know what I mean? I got the qualification, whether the department paid for me or whatever it is. I mean, I remember when we were studying and everything else, people were,
They're fighting for their
for 4 years,
Yeah.
you were sorted. You didn't have to take out a cent.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? and now you're in the system. You really don't want to be there. And here I am, I bring my child, who is one of 40 in one classroom that you need to deal with.
No, not 40, baby. Not 40. More.
Minimum.
That's more. I had a
More.
class of 47 physics
Minimum.
learners.
And then
This
you're
is
teaching
one
4
class.
classes.
Yeah.
One class.
Yeah. And you're teaching 4 classes.
4. More like 7.
More like 7,
Yeah, well,
9
it
high
depends.
schools, yeah.
Depends.
I guess it depends on the schools and everything.
Yes. Yes.
So, okay. 40...
45.
No,
45.
guys,
okay,
at
okay,
least
let me-
45.
Let me work. Okay, let's work with this figure. 40 learners, 4 classrooms. That gives you 160. Is my math
No.
right?
Four classes, 41, 60, correct.
Ah, there we go.
But we need more like
But if you-
440 learners.
But I think
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is, you as a teacher alone, and I know I've had conversations with you, Mr. Williams, where you have to do assessments and markings and everything else.
Look,
Gents, I don't know how you guys do it, guys. I truly and honestly don't know how
Just-
you guys
We also
are
don't.
able to do it week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. 40 learners, each and every one of them, the amount of paperwork that you got to go through in terms of the assessment for one learner. And now you still need to deal with discipline issues, you still need to deal with counseling issues, you still need to deal with all those
Yes.
issues and everything
Yeah.
else.
I found that I said it, I think for the whole of last year and the previous year, I said, I'm not a teacher, I'm a social worker. I came to school every day to social work, to do social work.
Sure.
Not to teach. I feel I can teach with my eyes closed, I can just do it, like breathing or blinking.
Sure.
But to do social work, and it's emotionally and mentally draining. And because parents are busy and you have to deal with issues and children report stuff to you and you've got to act appropriately and correctly, you don't want to infringe on anybody. So for me, that social working part of teaching is the most draining part. I think the marking and whatever else that comes along with it and curriculum coverage and whatever other deadlines we have to meet and paperwork to submit, I can do that. It's a drudgery, but I can do that. But it's the emotional and mental support that I would need
Sure.
from, if anything, from the Department of Education. I would need where I would go for some counseling or therapy session once a week to offload and just recoup who I am.
burnout.
Yeah, or else suffer from burnout.
Burnout.
If I can just come in here and throw a bit of a spanner in the works. So you all know I come from a corporate background.
Sure.
So let me give it to you from a corporate perspective as a parent. So I'm first going to speak as a parent, and then I'll move on to speaking as a teacher. As a parent, I worked. I have 3 kids. And there was a time my husband worked shifts. And I was studying. And I was very involved in church. So I did all that and disciplined my own kids. I did not for once leave that to my children's educators to do. We make too many excuses for parents not doing their duty. You might get home late, but you still have at least an hour or 2, depending on what time you send your kids to bed, to discipline them. You wake up early in the morning and you get your kids done. Is it not so? In that time, you're disciplining them. You have the weekend. Discipline them. But don't leave it to the teacher. That is an unfair expectation of any parent to have on any teacher. I am there as an educator to teach your child. And if I have to first discipline your child, I'm wasting 10 to 15 minutes of the lesson that you pay to the school to be taught to your child. Just to discipline your child. Okay, let's say you don't pay school fees, right? No, but we have circumstances like that. We have such examples. However, it is still your child.
Denying your child and
It
other
is
children.
still your responsibility.
Sure.
Your child has the right to learn. They come to school with the right to learn. It is their responsibility to make sure that they learn.
Sure.
And if we have discipline issues, we have a disruption in class. That disruption creates a whole ripple effect of the child not being able to learn. That child is impacting and infringing on their own right,
And
as well
others.
as the rights of others, as well as the right of the educator. So now we have a problem. This problem then becomes ripple effect out in other parts of the school and even in the society. We have become too complacent as parents, where we think, because I have this huge demand to be at work for 8 hours, and I have to use public transport, or a lot of them don't, and I need to get to work and I need to get back, and I'm tired by the time I get back. Guess what? I teach, and I'm more tired as a teacher than what I was when I got home from my office job. I work harder as a teacher than what I did in corporate. I can tell you about both spectrums. And it is no easier as a teacher than what it was as an office worker. It was actually easier in corporate than what it is now.
Hey, the passion, yeah.
My daughter, as part of one of her assignments, I said to her she must calculate how many hours extra in a year would I do, just to help her with counting and so on. The year when I had grade 8s and junior classes, I had to discover or find the extra 625 hours after teaching till 5. Take note, you may think school comes out 2:30, but as she said, high school or primary school, there's a lot of social work. There's learners with problems, there's learners that want help.
Sure.
And you cannot ignore it. So you literally nowadays from school, a teacher's job, we end at 5. Get home, you have to take care of your family, and then you have other work. Unnecessary, sorry to say it, but it's unnecessary admin. Planning. I can sit and do the planning, but how I teach the lesson is totally different from what I plan, because I have to cater in what mood does the learner come in.
That's a different
Where's the
child.
basics? Does he have that basic grounding? Does he not have? And I have to change that lesson. And if you don't have, as you said, there's teachers, teaching has become a gateway for job creation.
Sure.
That's why I must say it straight as it is. Alright, that's not lie. So end of the day, that teacher there that is not taking the time to teach that like a child properly, that discipline issue from that teacher's class spills over into my class, because now in that class he was allowed to do what he wants to.
Yes.
In the second period he was by another teacher where he was allowed to do what he wants to. Third period he comes to me. 2 periods he hasn't done work.
Sure.
The teacher's getting same salary as me. Now it's my job to remotivate, get that discipline, get the kids in order before I can even start doing my work. Now other teachers just don't have that skill, and this is a big difference I pick up. We had professional development. Now it's no more part of a teaching degree.
Sure.
We have teachers coming and you can see there's no professional development. How they interact with the board, the material they have and the learners, there's no understanding taking place of what's happening. As I said earlier, to learn it requires a child to listen. There's no discipline, the child won't listen.
Yeah.
If he's not taught at home to listen, he comes with that same mentality to school. He's not listening. If he can't read, I can't teach him. Because once I give him assessment, can't do anything.
Let me ask you guys this question very quickly. I think let's go back to the training that you received many moons ago. In your case, do you honestly think that it prepared you for the classroom today? I look, you guys qualified over 10 years ago with it. Do you honestly think that? But yes, you're gonna look at your experience, but I'm saying that that training that you received there, right? And I'm going to a place here where you got teachers who qualified, and various reasons have not gone back to upskill themselves for various reasons that are valid, that may be valid. The training that you had received then, would it be valid, and is it and you know what I mean? Can you guys bank on it now?
I
Look,
can. I still draw from what my lecturers have taught me at JC. Honestly, I still draw from a lot of, I still have lots of notes and files from my
still
years
have
of
mine.
studying.
You're a hoarder. That's what we call it.
But you know what? I
I
make
still
use
have
of
his file that says Pops Buffett.
I use those notes and I
You had
go
a
back.
file?
Yeah, the file, yes, he left it with me.
He actually attended class.
I'm getting exposed right here. I'm getting exposed right here.
But to answer that question, Pops, what is the name? Mrs. Padney.
Yes.
Oh.
God bless
Remember
us.
Mrs. Putney?
Yeah.
She forced you to be professional.
Yes.
And
Professional
you
studies
wanted-
was
Yes,
the
Mrs. Paddy.
Ms. Mabota and
what is it? What is it?
The tone she set first day when you walk in. You had a cap on.
What is it? What is the
I had a
subject? What is
cap
it?
on. Yeah, professional development.
Professional development.
Professional studies or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they changed it to professional development.
Okay.
It was professional.
But they're
But
still
The
professional.
tone that she set when we walked in
Sure.
with the caps on, straight away. She put us in order.
Yeah.
Yes, and we don't have that now.
Yeah.
She put us
You
in
don't have
order.
that way in the training?
Yes, I see. I just had a student teacher with me now a few weeks ago. I won't say from what institution. But over the years, I've had student teachers being with me in the classroom. And to be honest, first day of school, before you say anything, before you open your mouth, before you prove what you are about, your dress code says it all. Mere fact with your baggy jeans, how do I expect my boys or to tell the boys that I'm teaching, you know what, pull up your pants, look neat, and but yet I myself am not. You lead by example. And I found that a lot, not all, but a lot of the student teachers coming in now, the simple thing about dress code is not there. So obviously if the teacher's not dressed correctly, there goes the discipline because the child's not going to be dressed properly. And let me tell you something, I know when I did ECD, I learned something and I drew from it, early childhood development.
There we go. Thank you so very much for telling us that.
But when I did my early childhood development,
Sure.
I learned that the way you dress is the way you act. So when the little children in the crèche get a chance to wear their Spider-Man suits and their
They
Dora
want to be
outfits, whatever,
superheroes.
then they're superheroes. Then they
They
can
want
fly
to be
and jump. And
superheroes.
so the way you dress is the way you act. So if you're dressing like who's, give me a rapper, let me hear, give me a rapper.
Khalid.
Leave
Who
the
and
rappers
or
alone.
whoever. But if you're dressing like that, you're going to behave like that.
But also, if you remember Mrs. Boata, when she taught us about discipline,
Yeah.
the first thing she taught us when we walked into that lecture room was, for the first 2 weeks, you don't smile.
Yeah.
The first 2 weeks,
You're not there
You
to
don't
be a
smile.
friend.
You're not
you
there
you
to be a
you are
friend.
strict. You're not friendly. You are hello and
become a
goodbye.
tyrant.
No, really. And you know what? I've
works.
applied it with
works.
every
It works.
practical
Yeah, it
I've
works.
been on.
Yes.
Every time I'm in class,
Every new class.
every
year.
new class. First 2 weeks, I don't smile.
Yeah.
And I can
Mr.
go
Williams, what
further.
is that? Yeah,
I can
sorry.
go further with what she's saying. Every class affords every teacher the same respect.
Yes.
Yes.
The first day we walk into your class, they're all quiet and they're all waiting what tone you want to set as a teacher.
Yes. You set the tone.
And
in class.
every year when class starts, a new class coming, they all afford every teacher right across the country the same level
Yes.
of respect.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we've been taught at varsity. Really, if we apply it in terms of treat every child the
Yeah.
same.
Mm.
In terms of what you started, maintain it. Consistency.
Yes.
I think we were taught
Yes.
about consistency. There was never a time where where we came and they did not tell us this.
Yes.
What they expected yesterday, they expect today.
Yes.
As educators, sometimes we miss the mark in them when children take over. Because a child is a child. A child is going to take their chances. They're going to see where they can get away with whatever else.
Sure.
It is up to you as the educator, who is the parent and the teacher.
Yes.
Because the honest truth is, you are a parent. At school,
Yes.
you are the
The
parent.
class
You are the
Parentis
taking,
localis.
you're taking the place of the parent.
Yes.
So, in that same manner, manner and vein, you need to educate that child. And I beg to differ with Carmen and our previous sayings in terms of it is the teacher's responsibility to also teach that child manners, because sometimes they grow up in a house where there's no parental figures.
Sure.
Sometimes they grow up, I mean, we know, if you look at the spat, my personal opinion is we have this ill discipline of children because people got children before their time and they're not looking after that, and the granny is looking after the child. Those are the
But
situations
that's
that
an
I find.
age-old story.
No, no,
People have
but-
been doing that.
But
No,
that's an
but-
exception to the
No,
rule.
no, to whose rule?
It's the
Which rule?
exception
Yeah,
to
it's
the
whose
rule,
rule?
Gino.
Which
I'm
rule?
talking about children who have parents.
No, no, yeah, but that's
who
what I'm saying.
are
But,
there.
But let's
What-
talk about
But
no,
you,
but what
as
about
an
those parents? What about those
as an
children who don't
educator,
have
you're there to
parents?
instill, to
Yes, instill discipline.
continually instill the
Yes.
discipline. You have to, or else you're going to drown in the system of teaching.
But now,
But you're not there to
let me-
teach
let me
them the
just finish this.
basics.
No. If you find in a place that these children don't know what you expect,
Different
they
story.
don't know how to greet, And this is the reality of
The
what we
reality
find.
of what, yeah.
Whose responsibility does it become? It becomes the responsibility of the teacher.
So-
And the teacher is a social worker. The teacher becomes a spiritual leader. The teacher, and these are all the
Everything.
things that we are expected and required to do. And like you said, Bobs, we need to skill ourselves as teachers. As teachers, we need to constantly skill ourselves.
Lifelong learners.
Because that was the one thing that we were taught at varsity, that we teachers must be lifelong learners. The moment the teacher stops learning,
Yes.
then
You throw in the towel.
you throw in the towel and you find
Cash
that
out your
okay,
pension.
learners will then
But
do
now
what they
can I-
want in their class.
Can
Okay.
I come in here, Pops? Right, I hear what you're saying. But now the problem is clarity around discipline. We have what? So many different cultures we're dealing with. Sutu learners, Xhosa, Zulu, Tsonga, Venda, all coming into the same class. We're not allowed to chase them away. So where do we draw the ground? Is the discipline the same for all those?
You know,
But,
You have
but,
ever
but wait,
taken
hold
the
on.
time?
Discipline,
No, no, I'm
respect,
asking.
respect for me is universal. You know,
Well,
no, here's what I'm saying. You come into this room, you find us here, you gotta greet. You greet. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're having a conversation, you don't just barge in.
excuse me.
Unless, of course, it's an emergency, somebody's dying. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't take what is not yours. You gotta respect me to respect you.
But-
So I'm saying, for me,
These
those
are
kind of things are
things-
universal, regardless of.
But you're
form.
saying it almost as if it's innate, as if you're born with it. And
No.
you're not born with it. You have to be taught that. And if your parents are not teaching you, then yes, your school will teach you, or your church will teach you, or your community will teach you. I know there's an African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child.
It used
You cannot raise a child in isolation. You need a support structure. You need parents and teachers to have the same relationship that your parents had with your teachers when you were at school.
Sure.
But right now, as a teacher, you almost fear parents because parents are not there
Yes.
to serve as a support structure for you. They're there they're on a witch hunt.
Yes.
They're there to
Yes.
just find your
Yes.
faults and your wrongs
Yes.
and what
Yes.
you didn't do instead of noticing what you did do.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yes.
not also, let me not generalize and say all parents, but a lot of the parents are just out on a witch hunt
Oh, yes.
instead of supporting you. And yet our schooling system is supposed to be like a triangle. It's supposed to be the child and the teacher and the parent.
Sure.
But a lot of the time the parent is missing from that. So we just left with the teacher and the child. So if you don't know what kind of teacher I am, and your child's in my class for the whole year, what kind of values or principles do you think I'm instilling in your child? So parents don't even take the time to come and see the teacher. You know, at the beginning of the year, I was saying for next year, for 2019, I want to have an information evening, and I want to do it differently. I want to be so different to how my school generally does it. Instead of parents just coming in to sit in rows and listen to me, lay down the law, I want to have a bring and share. Because your child is entrusted to me for that year.
Yes.
Know who I am, what I stand for, and what I don't stand for. And there we can work out something together. Oh, Mrs. Van Willing, you know what, you said this, in our house we don't do it like this. You know, so we can come to a compromise. But we just leave our children in the teacher's class for the whole year and we hope for the best. You don't know what my values are. Do I even have strong values that I'm instilling in your child?
But-
we just take for granted, oh, she's there for the year, the teacher will take care of it.
Janine, this is not even a teacher thing. Let's go broader. Bigger picture, parents are disrespecting school rules.
Yeah,
The same code of conduct that they've signed
yes.
in the beginning of the year, they are disrespecting that. And then you get parents who have an attitude, nogal, né? And they throw that attitude with the teacher like, I'm a this and I'm a that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
You're
happy
just
for
a
you, but
teacher.
I'm the teacher.
Yes.
Can we just get back to basics right now? You know, like I don't care who you are or who you think you are, but your child is in my care and there are school rules. You put your child in a school for a reason. You have committed yourself to obeying the school rules.
And you chose the school.
You chose that school, and then you expect that same school that you said, cool, I'll work with you, to now adjust their policies and procedures,
To
their
accommodate
code of conduct to suit your one child because you are a problem. You lack discipline. The problem today is that adults themselves lack self-control and discipline. That is why their children also
If
lacked
they
lack
mimic
self-control and discipline. It comes back to the parenting issue, the societal
Yeah,
problem,
but
I would
the
say-
moral
That's
decay.
right. Okay, well, here's what I want to take this
Okay.
to another direction, and
Talking problems.
and I want to use your words right there, Leandro, in that you set the tone in the beginning of the year. What kind of teacher that you're going to be? You know what I mean? Whether are you going to stand for nonsense, for discipline, or not, right? Which then says to me that you are now, if you have a rowdy class or you have ill-disciplined kids, so are you then saying that that comes down to the teacher himself, who the adult, who the teacher or educator is, if they are ill-disciplined, if they are coming into class with baggy pants and hats and whatever it may be, if they are disregarding the school rules, department policies and all those kind of things and everything else, clearly this will filter down to the kids. That's where we're going.
Yep.
Now, why I raise that is this. Remember 2 years ago there was an incident at one school out in Pretoria, the girls' school, where the girls were saying that, look, my hair, how I want to wear it and whatever it may be, right? And the discussion around that whole thing was exactly what you just brought up right now, Carmen, in that there's a school, the school's rules, there's policies and everything else, which parents and teachers, I know at some schools, the parents and the learners sign.
Yes.
That okay, fine, I will abide by this code of conduct.
Yes.
Right. There it is signed and everything else. On the other hand, now we turn around and we applaud those kids for being activists, we applaud those kids for standing up for their rights and everything else.
But it's
Nothing
also
to
how
do
you
with
did it. It's how
Nothing to
they
applaud.
did it. And I'm one of those, I advocate what those kids did. But my thing is how they did it. They did it in a non-violent way. They didn't, yes, they went against the grain to try and, but anything with change, you've got to go in a
But
different
there's a
direction.
school policy, and the school policy, I
Look,
know,
it's
I
not
think
cast
don't
in stone.
agree
It
with
needs
that.
to be reviewed.
besides it being
No.
cast in school, but
Don't agree
here's
with that.
what I'm saying.
SGBs need to review their
Fine.
code of conduct regularly.
It's okay, I get that, but here's what I'm saying is that, and I'm going to use Mr. Williams as an example right here. I know that he was told about his hair many a time when we were at college. You know what I mean? He had the most outrageous hairstyles up until now, him growing his hair. But what I'm saying here is there is a school policy, there's a code of conduct which these kids and their parents signed for them now to turn around and say that, but I have a right for me to wear my hair however I want. That policy is there. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So-
Engage it. Engage.
But then
engage,
you need to
engage
question
those
when
that
it was
need to-
drawn up
Okay.
and the kind of
But
child.
that's
Fine.
where discipline
Things
issues
have
come.
changed.
But-
Let's
but-
be
but-
discipline
discipline
issues
stagnant.
Can I
Listen,
come in
wait,
here?
wait.
Can I
I think
come in here?
Things
before
can't
you
be
come in,
stagnant.
here's what
Can
I'm
I
saying.
come in
Look,
here?
things cannot be. I understand that, but here's what I'm saying is when you come into a place and we're saying that this room shall be in a certain way, right? This is how it's been for the last 20 years. Come in. Let's now have engagements. Let's now have questions. Let's now have conversations rather on. But can we not change it? Because when that was set, this was where everybody else.
Let me
was
give you
going
an
or whatever it may
example.
be.
Grey long socks. Do your boys, you in primary school, do your boys wear grey long socks? My boys at my school and my son wear grey long socks.
Sure.
Now in society, Babs, please tell me, in 2018, who wears grey long socks outside of our South African schooling system?
Even
But
in
that-
even in
but that
1994,
was-
nobody was wearing that outside the
Exactly.
schooling.
No, but that
But it was uniform.
But it came up from 19 what, and
It's
we're just
uniform.
doing it when we're not questioning it.
But it is uniform.
But
No.
you bring it to a
Okay,
specific
Mr. Williams?
forum,
Yeah.
doing it the way they
Yes.
did it, in acting out and going against the school rules.
If you want
that
change,
was
you've
wrong.
got to be radical.
Even
or
if
you're not gonna get
even
change.
if they did
I
it,
just-
even if they did it non-violently,
I just
it
wanna
was
say this.
wrong.
They were
I just
not
want to
It
say
was
this,
wrong.
Yeah.
that the moment you elect an SGB, it's elected democratically.
Sure.
They represent parents
Yes.
of children. Then you have a LRC that represents learners, and that's the voice that you use to speak. I mean,
Yes.
if
Platforms
I have
for
a
you to raise up
problem
whatever
as
it
a teacher, I'm an EPTOSA member, so I go through my union. I say this is my
Yes.
problem. I don't break the rule
Yes.
and then expect
Change.
them to change.
Exactly.
No, we engage the rule.
Exactly.
And then we
Okay.
say, all right, this is this is where the problem has come. Let us then, the rule has not changed, and then they will say to you, all right, this is when we appear and this is where we discuss it. But don't, I mean, it's like going to the army still cuts their hair short, and this is what they expect. And if you want to have a problem, you need to obviously go and look at what is the correct channels to follow. And that's what we say. When we come and we say these are activists, no. Why don't they act up in class against learners that destroy discipline?
Positive.
Why don't we have activists for the positive thing?
Yes.
Because an issue like hair, for instance, is an issue that is relevant because everybody wants to do their thing. But there are channels to be used.
And there's more important things to worry about.
It's like-
Let's face it.
No, that's for us. For children, hair is very important.
See, not
that
to be
was being
political.
radical.
We
Would we have
breaking-
changed?
Not to be political, but I can guarantee
Would we
you
have
it'll be
had
political.
change in our country if there was
I-
no
I-
I don't want to
radical?
be political, but I can
I
guarantee
have
it's
to
going to be political.
break the law to change the law. Is that what
It
you're
doesn't
saying?
make sense.
I'm not
Mm.
saying
No,
break the law.
no, that's
but
what-
if you followed the channels, and let's face it, there are these, how do I put it? If you followed the channels and you've gone through your SGB, but you're still not getting any feedback or any changes, then you've got to do something radical, as long as it does not.
No. What we need to do that's
hurt
radical.
anyone.
But the thing is, that is not what happened in that case to me.
What we need to do that's radical, and this is the problem we're sitting with. We are focusing on all the wrong things. You want to change policy, and I understand it. But because policy has been changed so many places at so many different schools, there's no clarity about where we're going, number
Yes.
one. Number two, what's your identity as a South African? Colored, what's a colored? What's a black person? We're supposed to be South African. But you even pick up that segregation at school. Districts are competing at each other. We have no teamwork between this district and that district. In this district, this works. Come, let's get together and solve this problem. There's no interaction. Westbury, they're on their own. There's violence. We avoid that area.
Okay.
Do you understand? Take my school, and I'll not mention the school, but if the department wants to show that this thing works, they come to our school because everybody follows the policy to the T. And they come and look for example or assessment, and they take that over to another school. So you see, we're not collaborating as
There's no
districts.
synergy.
We are segregating, and we're changing policy instead of coming to a point where we create a clear policy with the common morals. There are common morals across, whether we talk Hinduism, Judaism, etc. We need
So
to come to.
I think what you're bringing across here is, as educators, as teachers, as the authority, right? And I'm bringing in here the department. There's no unity. Therefore, obviously, your learners are going to sense that. Obviously, your parents are going to sense that, and everything else. I just want to come back now to the school being a war zone. And I think we need to get to solutions and how we sort this out. I mean, just before we get there, a couple of incidences. Earlier on this year, footage from inside a classroom went viral on social media, where the learner in question, who attends Three River Secondary School, was actually leaving her desk in the middle of a lesson, taking a large exercise book and actually approaching a teacher and, throwing it straight at the teacher. That video, I think everybody saw it on social media, you understand? Down in KZN, a teacher was actually filmed lashing out at a student at a secondary school, and the teacher was actually suspended. A young teacher was suspended and is facing criminal charges pending an investigation for allegedly turning on not one but actually two students, and the students were actually offered counseling. Right? Then you also have, pupils that have attacked teachers and everything else. You got two pupils that were seen repeatedly punching and kicking a teacher who was lying on the ground. Right? You got teachers and students who have come forward with actually allegations of sexual assault at schools across the country. The most recent incident actually being made onto the internet when a friend of a student actually perpetrating the harassment filmed what happened at a school not very far away, right here in Lens, right? You got a video clip with learners confronting teachers and pointing at him, and he's all hell-bent over a desk and everything else, and he's going through a learner's book and all of that, and an exchange actually happens with this whole type of thing. So once again, here's a teacher that goes there, reprimands the kids for whatever type of thing, and this child retaliates. one teacher out in Pretoria has actually gone on to say that she was speaking to the Sunday Times, and she's gone on to say that, hey, you know what, I'm considering a career change. You got a lot of teachers today who are considering leaving the South African teaching system to take up jobs overseas, China, the United Arab Emirates. I mean, I think that's the latest one right now. You got Japan as well. That's also a big thing because they're looking for English teachers and everything else. There's a friend of ours that we know. I mean, he's never taught in South Africa. When he graduated and he left. He graduated and he left. But that was probably like. But what I'm saying, here's what I'm saying is that when I say he never taught in South Africa, is even if he did 2 years here, you know, graduated, he's gone, right? So you're seeing this brain drain. Yes. You know, there's a brain drain that is happening in this country in terms of skills, where teachers are opting to go teach overseas and everything else. And one, they'll tell you the money is good. Two, they'll tell you that there's support from the department. Parents are involved.
And it's those that are passionate about this.
Oh, yes.
Exactly.
It's not those that don't want to be here.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not teachers that are running after money. Now, one, how do we solve that? How do we keep teachers in the system? You know, I must say I'm guilty of that. I was there. You know, as a learner teacher, I did it for a year. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna do this, and I left. So you got a lot of teachers that are leaving the system. She went into corporate and went back.
I think support from your community and support from the parents of that school. You know, not always to be out on a witch hunt to get the teacher out for whatever case. Listen to the teacher. I mean, a teacher won't reprimand a learner or, you know, have to counsel a learner for something that's unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? So I think support the teacher. When the teacher contacts, as a parent, if a teacher contacts you, you know, address the issue. You know, don't address the teacher. Address the issue with the child.
Sure.
Do you understand? Don't turn it around on the teacher. So I'm just saying support the teacher. And we don't even need to wait for DBE or, you know, to support the teachers. I'm just talking about the community. I mean, a school is part of the community. Schools and churches are part of the community. Churches can support teachers, you know, and the parents of that school to support the teachers. Just by following through on whatever discipline. If for instance, like we have, so yes, we don't hit children or whatever, but you say detention, stay for detention, and then guess what? No detention because I have no transport. Then you as a parent say, ma'am, I'll arrange for my child to then stay at the end of the month for that Friday, for that Friday. I will reinforce the discipline with you. That's the support I'm talking about.
If and you know, I like to be upstream when everyone is downstream. But if I can just say, before I get to a solution, I need to just bring this challenge, if I can put it that way, to the fore.
Sure.
Teachers are fearful. And as much as it is not seen as school being a war zone, but I'll tell you why there's a fear. You are scared to reprimand a child, and I'm talking before all the killing and violence of teachers, you're scared to reprimand a child. You are scared to even be loving towards a child.
Even that, yeah.
You can't touch a child in a nurturing or loving manner because it can be taken as
sexual harassment.
Yes. You fear any sort of discipline towards a kid because kids are malicious creatures. As much as they are loving creatures, as much as they are the salt of the earth and we love them to bits, that is why we are teachers, but they can be malicious in a sense that they make up stories.
Add on to a story.
Yes, so they've got imaginations, and I wish they can apply that to their English work, but they have these vivid imaginations of things that took place that never took place, and that happens towards teachers a lot of the time. So teachers are fearful when it comes to how they protect, how they love, how they teach, how they interact with their learners. And I mean, you don't become a teacher for the sake of becoming a teacher, even though that's the new trend now. But when we did it, it's because we genuinely love what we do and we want to make an impact in our children's lives that we teach. I refer to my kids as my babies,
Yes.
my children, my darlings, my whatever, you know. And they are as much my kids as my own children that I gave birth to. So that's a challenge that teachers are facing. So what I'm saying is, in order to solve the problem, and okay, let's go to why they're facing that challenge. They face that challenge because kids have too many rights.
Without knowing the responsibility.
Without knowing the
they are.
responsibility. So I say, take away the rights. They have a right to learn. We know that, they know that. That's why we're there. We implement that right daily. They have a right to be safe. I cannot protect you if I cannot discipline you, if I cannot reprimand you. It comes with building relationships.
Yes, that's very vital.
Which we cannot do with our learners anymore because you are so scared. Ooh, father, if that mother or that father comes through that office with a story, and believe you me, daar stories elke dag. You hear stories. You get called into the office for a story, but call that same parent in to come and sit with you and discuss their child's academic performance. They don't come.
to attack.
They don't come. And if they do come, they come on the defense. And I'm not saying all the parents, I have lovely parents. Thank God for that. They come and they listen genuinely to what I have to say about their kid. So they have the right to learn, the right to be protected, the right to be fed, the right to feel secure. And that is that's basically
Well, all right.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Let's implement Maslow. Let's bring the nigger into our schools and put him there. And that's their right. And further than that, you have no other right. Your right is to shut up and learn. If you learn that, you'll get far in life. And I'm not saying don't think outside of the box. I'm not saying that at all. No, but if your children will be very happy in my class. But I'm saying let's get back to basics.
But do you know that children also find safety in rules, and they feel safe
Yes.
with
With the
routine,
rules.
and they
Yes.
feel safe with boundaries.
Uh-huh.
But when it's just lawless, they don't know themselves where to go.
This is the funny thing. The learner, especially learners that you get in contact with the parents early in the year and they give you that right as a parent, you strict. That same learner is the one that will come and say thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
The other learners will not thank you whatsoever. That same learner will come, thank you, Manir, because of you, I managed to achieve it.
Yes. Yes.
I want to bring this in. Sorry, quickly, Mr. Williams. Okay.
Just before you, I don't believe schools are wars at all.
Yeah.
I also don't think so.
I don't think so.
I mean, I love the school that I teach. I really do. I'm like, Jesus. I'm at school. Sometimes till 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I even do
I love
productions
school
in.
too.
I really do. I feel fulfilled
Yes.
in what I do, and that's why I believe it's a calling. It really is. But I also believe the injustice that has been done is the fact that they've taken it away as being a profession.
Yes.
They've put the stigma onto teachers where
Yes.
teachers are not trusted. And that's for minority of teachers that have been catching on nonsense. That the majority of teachers are not trusted. It's as if we are watched and before you would believe a teacher, you believe everyone else.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's a problem. You've taken away from the integrity of the profession itself.
Yes.
And for me, one of the solutions is come back and add to the integrity of a teacher. You know, there's so much work. The workload is so much that there's no space for creativity in class. I know Janine tends to differ, which is fine.
Always differ with everything.
So, I mean, we had now how many since I've been teaching? I'm not teaching a long time,
Yeah.
but since we've been teaching, there's been how many
Turnaround changes.
changes in education itself, CAPS, NSE, and then we had OBE. Do you understand? So all these changes are just what has been taken from outside and said, all right, let's implement this. So all those things sometimes becomes a problem because you find that now you need to run at somebody else's space.
And not our
And
context.
you have a child that is there and you need to get him onto the basics of what he needs to be able to do.
Yes.
But now you need to run at another school space because we have this And there's a saying that I saw that we measure all our children at how well they climb a tree.
Yes.
And some of them are fish, others are
Snakes.
elephants. And I'm not talking about the shape, I'm just talking about in terms of what their capabilities are.
Characteristics.
And this is where we sometimes fail because we measure them all on the same standard and the same measure,
And they're not.
and they're not the same learners.
Now, to bring on his point, it leads to frustration.
Yes.
It leads to discipline problem.
Mm.
Leads to a learner being ill-disciplined.
Mm.
So now you sit in class, you have 6 academics. You have like 4 or 5 that are average learners. Majority of the learners are aiming for 30%.
Yes.
Now that 30% don't understand what you explain.
Mm.
So you have to re-explain and re-explain till you get them to understand, because now if the majority of the class fails, you as a teacher, you're not doing your work.
Yes.
You understand? But at the same time now, what are you doing? That academic there, I'm not taking
losing.
care. I'm basically dropping the standard of the academic because I'm not giving him any content to keep him there elevated.
Mm.
The learner in between, you see, all that leads to
Yeah,
frustration.
you get your average learners, you get your obviously above average and below average and
But now-
whatever.
nowadays
And even that average as to how it's worked out, it's debatable.
Yeah.
It is very much debatable. Now, here's what I want to get into right here is from a training point of view, what's the pass mark to become a teacher? When you're training and assessment wise and whatever it is. Is it still 50%, 70%?
Wait.
It depends on the
50%.
subject.
I'm talking about from a teacher point of view, like when
Still
you're going in there
50%.
getting your to get your qualifications.
Still 50.
Mm.
You gotta get a 50%.
But it's between 40 and 50. It depends which module
Now
you're busy
supplementary
with.
exam 40 to 50.
But what?
Mm-mm.
Here's what I'm trying to.
You
Here's
have
where I'm
to
going with this
supplement.
question. Here's where I'm going with this question is if we're saying that okay, you can go into the classroom with 40%, right, of the knowledge, already there's a problem right there.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Right? Because I want to bring in a corporate in this instance. You know, there's certain corporates, institutions, and everything else, call centers. You know, that's the one background that I do have. 85%.
Yeah.
That's your
IT.
pass mark. So anything below 85,
You
because how they look at it, they say that you know 85% of the work.
Yes.
So, right?
Capable of doing it.
So your capability is 85%.
To implement.
Now, I mean, right now where we are, we got camera people behind, we got cameramen and everything else. That is manning these cameras. If they only know 40% of that, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So
Yes.
we have a problem there already.
Yes.
Now, a teacher comes into the classroom who only has 40%.
But is that the number?
Let's even say
Uh,
50%.
even
For me, even
50%.
for me, even 50%, it's dangerous because we're saying for you
Yes.
to come and teach our children, just get 50%.
But you see, that is content knowledge. Now you're talking about
Mm.
content knowledge. When you're in the classroom, to be honest with you, content and what you learned in terms of your varsity or your training, it's not really applicable. What
It
Okay.
is, but it is.
Okay, let's
content?
stop.
Look here, I've
Yeah,
never
that's a
taught.
subject.
I've never
Ah.
taught. Subject content you learn.
Foundation phase, let's stop this.
Here's the division now. Here's the division right here.
Here's the division. Look, most of me and other teacher, a very good colleague of mine, will hear classes misbehaving. This class is like this, they're giving every teacher trouble. Same class comes to us, start teaching, no problem. What we always maintain is, if you know your content
Yes.
in high school,
Yes.
then you
It does.
teaching, the learner can understand, you can relate, and you can get the learner to understand what you're doing here on the board. There is no discipline issue in class.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is when we were studying,
Yeah.
whatever we learned, that content is not applicable necessarily in the
Not in
classroom
high
now.
school.
Now, depending where you're at. I mean, if you're teaching
Mm.
science, and
I-
you did not understand, let's say you get 30% or 40%
maybe, okay.
in science,
Science.
and you can teach matric science.
Yeah.
Okay, then
And-
I
High
stand to be
school
corrected.
is different
No,
to
I'm
primary
only saying
school.
based on my experience
Yeah.
as a foundation phase,
Yeah.
ECD foundation phase teacher that's now teaching in the intercent phase. I've got no training
But-
with the intercent phase, but yet I'm teaching in the intercent
But yet, what
phase.
I
Do you
learned
understand?
studying
I could
infant,
even go as
I
far as
apply.
teaching in the high
I
school.
got you, but I think at the end of the day, whether
But-
primary school, high school, whatever it may be, and all of that, you got to look at it this instance that if you know only 40% of your subject matter, I have a problem with
Yes.
that.
And I
can
Be,
back
be,
up
be
what
it
you
mathematics,
said. I
be
can-
it English,
Yeah, the 60%
because
that
whatever
the
it
child
may
is
be.
not going to
And
be
I
able
Do
to
you understand what I'm saying?
Okay,
So
yeah.
you as the educator,
But
And
then
I
it
can-
also
I-
comes down to your
Standards.
No, no, no.
strategies and methodologies.
No. Can I
You
just
need to also
go further?
acquire a good strategy or methodology for the subject and the content that you
Yeah.
need to implement in the
But-
classroom.
is that taught or is that
That's
is
experience.
is it taught or is it learnt?
It's learned. It comes with experience.
Both, I think.
Yeah.
No, I think it
But
comes
to
more with
back up what you're
experience.
saying, and one of the huge problems that arise in high school, this whole concept of a grade 8 and 9 specialist. We have teachers that strictly teach grade 8 and 9. They have no understanding of grade 10 content whatsoever. So in grade 9, their focus is not on what's important for grade 10. They come by this thing, it looks a
Oh,
bit
revisions,
difficult,
yeah,
we
sure.
rush through it.
Short sighted.
We rush through that.
Leandro, let me just, you find that someone teaches social science and they've never been good at map work, the geography part. They're only going to focus on
Yeah.
the history part of
Yeah.
it. So when that learner comes and chooses history and geography in grade 10, that learner knows nothing about geography because that teacher only focused on the history part.
But this is why you have your quality assurance,
Yes.
your HODs, the
Let
check,
me-
and your curriculum coverage.
But how
to-
do they check it?
to
They
combat
They
that.
check it by work that's in a book.
Yeah.
And this is my problem with work in the
In a
book.
book.
Work in the book can be written. I mean, you can have the most beautiful notes on it. It doesn't mean you taught it.
Yes.
That is the reality. We sometimes as teachers
Yeah.
have this window dressing.
Oh, yes.
And
Our
the
files
books are
Yes,
full,
yes.
but the head is
Yeah.
empty.
Okay. Let me then pose this question to you guys when it comes down to the curriculum. 2018 right now, right? We were just joking just before we went on with you.
25.
Just before we went on with you, of the devices and everything else. Apparently, the way that it's seated, this side of the world, BBT, born before technology, they've upskilled
mastered it.
themselves. They've-
You
but
surprised?
what I'm saying is this: is that the curriculum, your grade 12 learner, if they come out of that school right now, can they come into the work area? And are they ready for that? Is the curriculum prepping these kids for work?
No.
Perhaps you know, amazing. I spoke to someone that was in corporate, and they said that if you look at everything goes to technology today.
Sure.
So
Fourth industrial revolution. That's what we are.
We have not prepared our kids for technology, even though we give them tablets. But if you look at it today, if a learner, if you are at work and you're struggling with a word, Google is just there. Why are our learners not writing exams with the Google? Because Google is at the fingertips of the world. There are access to information, and we expect learners and children still to go and memorize things as if we are in 1920. The reality is we have information at our fingertips. What learners must be tested on is how well they can access that
Yes,
information.
and
That
apply
is, that
it
is
to
the
their
world
life.
we live
Not,
in.
not just how well they can access the information, but how well they can think
Yes.
about it and how well they can compare it and scrutinize it and
Choose what
what
is
is
relevant.
applicable
Yes.
to me
The-
and what is not applicable to me.
As-
They don't know how to do that level of thinking.
As a science teacher, I always say I would prefer curriculum would work. Don't make the child write an exam in grade 8 or 9 to decide will he take physical science. I give you a shape, broken up, put it together. If you can put it together, it shows that you have some logic. This is this size, that is that size. I can fit it together. I'm testing your logic. The same thing applies. I teach geometry. It's observation. A kid, cars can drive past. You can be like, yeah, that's a BM from a distance. No, that's a Mack. That's a Hyundai. That's geometry is the same thing. How come he can't observe what's going on the board? It's 9 theorems. It's observation. Can you see it does this shape, it does that shape in it? How come the two can't be related? We have learners doing visual arts, but they are not taught animation.
We don't
Guys-
teach in context.
Guys,
No, no, I'm
do
just saying.
but do we
Our
have to
curriculum-
at high school level? And this is something that I've been pondering on, because if you look at Howard Gardner, the 9 intelligences that he poses. Oh, I love his theory.
Recently,
I love his theory because he's like, not everyone is mathematically inclined. Not
course.
everyone is scientifically inclined. Not everyone, and he even goes
Even
as far as
reading.
sport, the sport intelligence, gardening, landscape intelligence. This is what Howard Gardner says, and I think that is why I love it so much, because at high school level, do we really still need to have purely academic subjects? I mean, if our children are operating on different intelligences, some would love to be gardeners, landscapers, some sportsmen, some, you understand what I'm saying? This is where vocational studies
But you
comes
see,
in.
but
Why are we
Artisans.
not incorporating these skills
that's in our
in our schools?
government schools. If you go out to your more affluent private schools, if you've ever heard of STEAM or STEM,
Yeah.
which is science, technology,
Yes.
engineering, art, and maths,
Yeah.
where they incorporate all of that, and they even have, what is this, 4D printers and all of that. We still eons
Yes.
away from there.
But
You
why
know,
do our
But the
parents
more
need to
affluent
send to a
schools are
private
running
school?
on
But
that.
what,
way.
here's what
But
I'm saying.
why?
This is exactly what I'm saying. It obviously comes down to facts. But here's what I'm saying is no, it
No, it does, it does,
always come down to,
it
but here's
does.
what I'm just saying that right now, why is my child still being taught on dromedaries? No, like really. You understand what I'm saying?
Theory.
Why is my child
Alabama.
why are we forcing my child to know
Christopher
what
Columbus.
dromedaries is, who Christopher Columbus is,
So you still
and-
remember
and-
it years
and the
later.
significance of 1652. Why must my child memorize all of that today in 2018? Why must my child know how to solve for X when this child is more artistically
here.
inclined? When this child is
But you
is-
see,
I can
this
answer
is where
that
you as a
but what I'm
parent
saying
have
is-
to harness your child's specific abilities. Let me say, for instance, my son and my daughter are day and night. My son's very maths and logical thinking and
also it has
whatever.
nothing to do with the shades.
So
one
he's
being
he's
darker.
more left-brained. He's more
Oh, so it's
left-brained
got nothing
and
to do
with
Grace
one
is
being dark and
right-brained.
light.
But my daughter is very young. I wish I can put my daughter on word for note now. I'll be the richest mom in the world. That child is young. She just needs a note. Net een note. And she can sing the song for you. So what I'm saying is she's more artistically inclined.
Sure.
And my son is more, analytical and,
And
get it done.
Your son is more his father.
so now let's
Yeah.
answer.
Not that the mother sings. But what I want to say is, my daughter's 6, and I can identify that in her already. So I
But you're
need
an
to see-
educator. You've been trained to identify.
I
with
don't
children.
think it's got
I am
anything
not.
to do
No,
with
it's
my
No, but what
about
I'm
being a
saying is-
mother.
no, no,
It's
no,
about being a
no, it's
mother.
about
It's about
being
being
a
a
No,
mother.
I
parent.
don't even think
No.
about it.
Let's
Because
bring
here's the
in
thing.
solve for X.
There's a lot of us.
Based on
wait,
what you said.
Yes, so for it-
Solve for X. The whole misconception and why our country, number one, production is not going up. Maths is seen as a problem and so on.
Sure.
The concept behind maths and the proper name for algebra and Greek is actually pattern recognition,
Okay.
which no matter whether you're right-brained or left-brained, etc., the key concept is to understand notes, you must see a pattern in it. To write one number plus another number, there's a pattern to it. To sit and work as a doctor, I have to identify a pattern. These are symptoms for flu. These are symptoms for cancer. So maths' purpose is solely to develop that whole concept of pattern recognition.
Problem solving is what I know it to be.
Yes, problem solving, whichever way you look at it. But when we teach it, we don't teach patterns.
Yes.
Some teachers feel it's a concept of, I'm the soldier child, I'm more intelligent than you.
Yes, and that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
A lot of our assessments as teachers that
Yeah.
we draw up is there to catch the child out.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm saying, I'm preaching this with my colleagues at school. Please, our assessments are not, that's why it's not called testing, it's called assessment. Guide the child, facilitate the child, help the child. You're not there to catch the child out, to
Yes.
get the child to fail.
Yes.
All I want is, I want the child to
What you
succeed.
taught,
And
you're
whatever
saying-
extreme I have to go to, I need to go through.
And you are
Yes.
saying that they've got to do that with 47 kids.
Yes!
Yes.
But
But
just
you
want to
find
use
easy
it
to
with
find.
what-
No,
47 times 4.
I just want to say, I think, and I believe, that I think government wanted us to be able to do that. And that's why they said, all right, let's bring the grade 9 in. And at grade 9, a learner can then go to an FET college where they are able to then,
Work on the skill that they
yeah,
got.
choose what they want to
Yeah.
do.
but there's
But-
no colleges.
But there are. No, they are.
There are.
Few and
Oh, not enough.
quality.
No,
But
Not
the
enough.
thing is, no, no.
okay.
The
Few
problem,
and
Number,
no, no.
the number, fine. We can always debate.
No, but the
they
problem
are-
is
but they are,
parents. No, no, parents are not informed about it. I believe there's enough that at the moment
In
for
Gauteng.
learners that are in Gauteng. I'm talking about contextual Gauteng. Let's talk.
Yeah.
In
Gauteng,
Roodepoort, there's
right?
only one.
Yeah, no, there's not only one.
There's only one in Roodepoort.
No. We'll speak, but there are more than just one.
As a matter of fact, two.
There's two.
Okay, you see, I
Exactly.
started
But what I'm saying, sorry, but no, there's two. As a matter of fact, hold on. There's two TVET colleges.
But
in this
now,
area.
their TVET colleges are not occupied by grade 9 learners, by grade 10 learners. It's occupied by people that have finished school,
Yes.
where they could have gone when they were in grade 9, or grade 10 actually, because you need your grade 9 certificate,
Yes.
and followed and pursued their dream.
N1.
Because that's what it was introduced as. So that you can then do your N1, 2, and 3, or whatever it is
Yeah.
that you need to do at these FET colleges, and you don't go to school and frustrate yourself.
Yes.
And it's
And
equivalent to
It's
to your grade
equivalent
12.
because we're looking at NQF level 4. Or
Yes.
NQ, that's obviously what you want to achieve. So the moment parents are educated and learners are educated about these things, we will not have this amount of problems and learners failing a grade and having to be progressed
And
to the next grade,
frustrated.
because automatically what happens is I have a way that this is my dream, this is what I am good at, this is what I want to do, and then you are able to then do that. And we won't have the dropout rate, we won't have that matriculants that fail,
Sure.
because everyone that is in grade 10, 11 and 12
Okay.
will be those that are academic.
Yeah.
But can I throw a
Okay.
spanner in the
You might-
works here? I mean, just being me. What if kids at primary school level are already like that? We have tactile learners. They learn by touching, so by doing. Not every learner learns the same way. Not
Yeah.
every learner is academically inclined, even at primary school level. And I've seen this. Where I say to a learner,
But this is
build me something because that is what he's into.
But this is where you as a teacher, you suppose now, coming from what we studied, differentiated learning. You need to come up with differentiated
But we
activities.
assess them the same.
No, even your assessments can be differentiated.
Yeah,
There
because
is
there's learning
concessions.
opportunities and all that.
Yes.
But
there's
if you're teaching
concessions
4
also
different
given.
classes of 45 learners, it makes it really difficult to test all your learners according
No one
No,
said-
you'll
Their
establish,
own-
No
you'll
one
establish
said life
2
would
or
be
3
easy.
differentiated activities, but all with the same end goal in sight. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And based on those 3, and you give the child, if it means you have to give them all 45 the same assessment, not test, and you have to give the 15 that didn't make it through the first assessment, give them the second assessment, and the 5 that didn't make it through the second, give them the third, until you have everybody in
But
the
what
class.
if that
all
child can't read
45
and
of them
write?
passing.
what if that child can't read and
Send him
write?
back to grade
Because
1.
because their attention
Yes.
is not on academics, it's on what he or she can do with their hands. We need to look at that because this is the reality of our education right
You
now.
need
But
to-
hold
you
on.
need
But I
We-
think,
we
but I
hear
think,
it
but I
right
think,
now.
but I think also once again, I'm coming through, from an employer's perspective, that where we sit, somebody comes in, knocks on our doors, and they need to be employed. And what you're saying is, if that child, for them, they need to be touching things and whatever it is, not necessarily reading.
Yeah.
At some point, there's instructions that's going to be there. So there's an
So
instruction manual in terms of how to use a certain machinery. There's an instruction manual that you need to read and understand in
Yes.
terms of how to use
And-
certain
and
equipment
that in
and all those
itself-
kind of things. So if we're not focusing on the child reading and we're just saying just do,
Yes.
we are going to find ourselves in
And
the
that
problem.
in
And
itself
I
is a
agree with
discipline
you.
measure in itself. Your ability to sit still at least for a half an hour or an hour, that in itself is teaching the child. It's an incidental teaching lesson, teaching the child to sit still. Because in life, there is going to be a time
Where he
where you
has to
need
focus.
to sit still.
But
We need
Janine,
to
haven't you found that there's a rise in ADHD and ADD?
I don't think so.
I would say.
no, it's just labels that we're giving the
hold on.
children.
Some doctors will
Yeah,
find
I'm
to
glad.
me.
You know what? I think
You know, I'm diagnosed as ADD, and it never affected my school. I would have been
It's just
diagnosed as
labels.
ADHD. It just labels people
Yes.
making money, etc., etc.
you
I agree
disrupted
with
us at
that.
college.
No, no, I
No,
You see now, you
you
see
know
now.
what? You know what I want
Did
to
it
do?
affect my learning? No.
Here's what I want to do. I'm going to cut you off right there. The whole ADHD and whatever it may. Because I feel that this is going to open up another conversation. Just, this is going to open up another conversation. You have, one feeling on it. We all have different. I'm also going to turn around and say, but that is just a label, right? Doctors, whatever it is, medical people will turn around, psychologists, and even they'll say no, but it's a
It
real
really
thing.
exists. Yes.
So
It does
it's
exist.
it's one of
Look.
But here's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I need for us to leave us right there, because I have a feeling that we're gonna need to do part 2, 3, 4, and 5 of this round table, right? But I think let's do this. Yes, the leading question to this was, is our schools
No.
become war zones, right? And I think, you know, we looked at it from a physical point of view.
Right.
But I will say schools have become a war zone because you are fighting and battling the system, you're fighting and
Teach.
battling the parents, and I'm not talking about a physical thing, but it's that of the demands that have been placed on you to discipline the child, to
Yes.
counsel the child, to be a religious leader for that
To
child.
respect the rights of the child.
And here's the thing as well, that I mean, if I need to be a religious leader for this child, but this child observes a different faith, you know, once again opening up another conversation right there
Religious
of
values that
the
you're
fact that
instilling.
of the fact that religion has been taken out of schools,
Yeah.
right?
No
We
religious
say
tolerance.
we say we're a Christian country, but what's happening in our schools? For instance, for example,
And that was where they
right
went
now-
wrong first.
right now,
No, let's just be
wait,
honest.
no wait, hold on.
Let's just be
Right now,
honest.
at this present moment, Our Father is still being taught in schools, because that's where I learned it.
Yes.
I learned the Our
No.
Father in schools.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No,
By
yes,
us,
no.
yes.
So it
Cultural
depends on the school.
diversity,
So what I'm saying is, it depends on
The
school.
religious tolerance.
It depends on the schools where you're going at. You understand?
Mm.
So there's those kind of things where you need to battle that for you as somebody who, you know, you observe your faith.
Mm.
You are obedient to your faith, and you start your day off by praying. You'll end your day off by praying. So I start my tasks off by praying, in whatever may be. But why can't you start your lesson off by praying?
But-
Why can't you end your lesson off by praying?
Perhaps-
Why can't you start school off? So what I'm saying is, it's conversations and questions,
Yeah.
and you are constantly.
It actually goes
battling those
deeper
things.
than that. When you look at the religious connotation to any family, any child. Albert, and I forgot his surname. Also,
Einstein.
not Einstein. no.
Yeah, Albert
But
Einstein.
he's a psychologist, and he says that a child performs better. A child who has a strong religious background, a strong religious foundation, performs better academically than the child who does not.
I have a brilliant child. He practices, in my class, he practices Islam. He's 12 years old. His mom, I think, is Hindu. His dad's Christian. They all go to church. But for the month of Ramadan, he alone
He observes.
observes
Yeah.
the month of Ramadan. So, and that child excels. I don't know.
But he has a
But
religious
here's what I'm saying.
foundation.
Look, I think at the end of
Just
the
let me
day,
just come in there quickly. What do we use in prisons when we want to transform a prisoner? We still use the Bible. We still
Yes.
use
Oh, that
God.
little blue book, the New Testament.
We still
Yes.
use God in prisons, but we
Yes.
take it out of school. So
Exactly.
what we are saying, first the person must go to prison before he can learn of religion. That's basically what we are.
Food for thought.
as I say,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, we're
Yes.
gonna have to leave it right there on that one, because I'm afraid, you know, we'll go on once again.
You said that's part 3 of the conversation.
Hey, look. But I need you guys, you know, 30 seconds or less. What are your deepest challenges, right? And what would your possible solutions be? We'll start with you, Mr. Simon.
Right, number one, curriculum
Look,
is
there's
too
a list.
condensed. No, it's yeah, the list.
Sure.
So, because the curriculum is too condensed, teachers don't have time to reinforce knowledge.
Okay.
Because we know it's a common problem, learners don't retain what you've taught them. Number two, time. If it's so difficult for adult to keep up with WhatsApp, Facebook, all that social media and so on, giving a kid a cell phone, between doing that and doing his homework, which one is more important?
Okay.
Does he focus on school, etc. Right, the homework. Sometimes we give our textbooks standardized. Textbook is not in line with what we are assessing there. And the homework there sometimes is too long. They test 30 things and the 30 things have no relation to each other whatsoever. So whatever I've taught here in the class is not being reinforced by giving the homework. It rather irritates the learner because now he comes back, he hasn't done it, he doesn't
It's
understand
arbitrary.
20 of these problems. Tomorrow as a teacher you want to shout him.
Sure.
Now he even gets more frustrated. So the work that we're teaching and the homework that we're given, there's sometimes no relation between them. we are not helping the kid. Right? Last and least, as I said earlier, policy. We need to come to a clear policy set out that works, because we have schools where policy works. Those learners come to high school and they come with that same. We don't even need to alter our policy at high school. The learner just continues behaving because it became a norm in school. But there's other schools where the policy is not working. The rules and regulations set up just don't correlate with what the learner wants. In some schools where it works, and some I've looked at, morals and values is a key part of what they have to learn.
Carmen.
Okay.
Mrs. Joel.
What I find extremely frustrating within the profession is the lack of support that we get. As educators, we feel like we're standing alone. And our task is a very important one. We feed the country with doctors, lawyers, engineers, even the normal office workers. They're also important. Whatever profession happens after this stems from us. And right now, it is a profession where you kind of sometimes feel shy to say, I'm a teacher, because of the stigma that goes along with it. And this is a noble profession. That's number one. Number two, I would say that kids lack listening skills. So what we find is that parents are not having conversations with their learners with their children anymore. They feed them technology. So, funny cell phone, funny tablet. Keep yourself busy, baby. Don't bother me. I'm watching my series right now. Whoa, Game of Thrones. You know, this is what parents are doing today. They're abdicating their role as a parent, leaving it to the teacher. The teacher will have a conversation with the child tomorrow. It's fine. I don't need to. I just keep this child busy because this child's actually a bother to me. That is what is happening in our homes today. You come to class, you say, the date is on the board. And I speak to my learners as if they are in grade 1. Because you take nothing for granted these days being in the classroom. So the date is on the board, please write the date. And then 10 of them ask the exact same question. Ma'am, must we write the date? But I just explained it. So listening is a huge, huge, huge problem. Also, I'm very old school, as much as I'm a new teacher. I'm very old school about books. Children need to feel the pages between their fingers. It is good for their development, number one. Number two, this is where the love and appreciation for books and reading comes into play. Children are sitting like this. That's why they don't appreciate reading and books. They don't know how to read. Why? They don't know how to spell. Why? Tablet, phone. Woo! What you doing? W-U-D.
Involved.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
So yes.
Teacher Janine.
Me?
I like your surname, bruh. Teacher Janine.
I forgot my surname.
I didn't, but I told you your surname is a challenge.
Fun.
Like,
Tongue
that's my
twister.
challenge.
Tongue twister.
Fun, have fun.
Village.
Oh, no, Brig.
Village.
Sharp.
Spelling.
Me.
What are your challenges, you know, as an educator?
You know, I'm very passionate about my teaching.
We all are.
Like I
We
really
all
am. I'm the best version of me when I'm at school. I mean, I leave school also at 4:30. Don't ask me why and what I'm only. And sometimes I don't even go home I sit on almost every committee at school. I'm very involved. But like I said, I'm the best version of me at school, apart from being a wife and a mother and whatever else. But I find what I'm missing most is relationships, like Carmen mentioned. You know, to build. I mean, I became a teacher because I want to interact with the children. And interacting with the children is not just the academics. The way I feel, that's almost by the way. You know, I want to have relationships with my children. There are some days when I go home and I say, oh my gosh, I didn't look into Leander's eyes today. You know, just to make that eye contact. And you feel so bad. You were sitting in my class for an hour of English and I made no eye contact with you. You know, and then I'll go and you know. So for me, I want the opportunity to build relationships with my children, with the support of my school, with the support of the Department of Education, with the support of the parents. Allow me that afford me that opportunity to build relationships with your children. If I need to have a conversation with your child, reprimand your child, counsel your child, teach your child, allow me to do that. And when I can't, when I can only go up until this point, that's where I need you as the parent to come in and support me and take it further. That's where I need the DBE to come in and take it forward. So that I can build on that strong relationship. Because these are people, it's not devices we're working, these are human beings,
Yes.
these are people, these are lives. You know, and I really feel bad, like I say, simple thing like not looking into his eyes today,
Sure.
or her eyes, like really, I just checked you gone for the day, you know?
Mr. Williams, we'll end off with you.
And you know my challenge. I think by now you all know me. I just have a problem with paperwork. Admin. You know, for me, as an educator, I know it seems like we're administrator. I've never been.
But
Even
you
when
have
I was.
core function, eh?
Yep. No, I'm not an
I
administrator.
can't-
My
I'm not.
core
Part of your
function is
core
teaching.
job description.
But that's
My
the
core
problem. The
function-
problem is if you go to the countries that we look at that succeeds, they have people that does admin.
Yes.
You need to know your teachers.
Yes.
Check your ELRC
No,
document.
no, but that's what I'm
Okay?
saying. No, but that's what I'm saying. The challenge for me, and this is what the department should know. They should know their teachers. They should know this is not his strong point. Pair him up with someone that there will be, when I come, then I don't have to run around because the department is coming tomorrow to get paperwork in order. It's a weakness.
We fought
It
teachers.
has been a weakness for me since I've grown up. If you ask me to speak to anybody,
Anytime.
anytime. If you ask me to do sports, anytime. So there are certain places where you find that certain teachers will lack at certain things because we are not all strong in all areas. So you telling me that's my core function means that function needs to be rechecked and relooked at who the educators are. Because my core function is to teach. When I stand in front of my class, come and tell you, when I leave, they will know exactly what I taught.
Yes.
Unfortunately, for me or for the department or for whoever is there that is going to expect
Paperwork.
that paperwork,
Sure.
there's going to be a
Paper
problem,
trail.
and then they're going to fail me on that.
Sure.
You're not going to
Understand?
get your 1%. You see, that's
Nah.
where you.
But that's a
academic
problem.
is.
That's where we know interesting comes in. So that's one of my challenges. I think the fact that the school that I'm at allows me so much freedom. If a child goes through difficulty, I can hug them. I've got that liberty at the school that has allowed me. So I'm saying that in terms of that, I think if that was taken away, it would leave us empty.
Yes.
It would leave the profession empty.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you find that as an educator, that you can see the need of the child. And at that moment, that child might just need a hug.
Yes.
We've heard it today from our educators sitting right here. For them, schools is not a physical war zone, but they are constantly just battling with the demands and the requests and everything else that is placed on them by the department, by the parents, sometimes even by the administrators within their schools, being the principals and the governing bodies and everything else. All they want to do is to teach your children. That's it. They just want to educate your kids, impart all the knowledge and experience that they have gained over the years. So, in a way, yes, schools have become a war zone because they're constantly just battling different forces. They're constantly just battling different things within the schooling system. Some of the challenges, we've heard it right now. It is unnecessary admin, unnecessary paperwork that is put on them. It is tasks that a lot of them may not even have been prepared for during their training to become teachers. But ultimately, the big cry out is parents, get involved in your kids' schooling. And the society at large, the community at large, needs to look after our teachers. Let's not have this target placed on the teachers' back or even on their heads. Let's stop gunning for the teachers and everything else. But let's come to conversations like this, where we need to find out what exactly are they battling with, what are our demands as parents, what's our demands as a system on the teachers. That's where we're going to leave it for now, but definitely this is a conversation that will need to go on. We were fortunate enough that it's school holidays right now, but we're definitely going to have this conversation, more often with our teachers and everything else, and possibly the next time around we'll invite some learners to this round table right here. We got to get from the learners themselves what exactly are their challenges. It is K Radio. It's the open book. That's where we're going to leave it now. We're good.
This is the longest I've gone without a cigarette, man. I'm impressed.